Let's chat.
It's hard. You want to talk?
I know, that's disappointing.
Sit back. Let's work this
How's
out.
it going? What are we doing here?
Hey,
Where are you going? Hey there.
Wow.
It's not always easy. It's amazing if you think about it. Let's think
This
about
seems
this.
strange.
I have some thoughts about that. Life is hard. Trauma bonded.
We will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live. We're going to survive. Today we celebrate our Independence Day.
What are you talking about?
Old antiquated movie reference from Elly. What do I do with that?
I'm like looking at my notes. Like, did I listen to the wrong one?
No, when she was kind of facing down the black mass of death, and she specifically quotes that Dylan, well, she comes close to quoting that Dylan Thomas poem, I will not go gentle into that good night, you know, the whole like facing down death. Whenever I hear that sentence, it always reminds me of that speech in Independence Day.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of?
What?
That Michelle Pfeiffer movie where she's a teacher.
Dangerous Minds.
Yeah.
So when you were listening to her episode, you thought of that scene in Dangerous Minds?
No, just now.
I really love that speech in Independence Day. And even though that movie is fucking 30 years old, whenever I watch it and hear that speech, I still tear up. Do you think it's a powerful one? It's about fighting aliens and like saving the Earth from a galactic battle. But still,
You know, I don't think I ever saw that.
Wait, what? Independence Day? Will Smith?
Okay, you haven't seen Jerry Maguire, so...
Those are not equals.
Well, yeah, Jerry Maguire is like way better than that. Here, one day you watch Jerry Maguire while I watch Independence Day.
Wait, I'm legitimately beside myself right now.
Are you upset?
A little bit. Is this comparable to Jerry Maguire?
I don't know.
How have we never had this conversation? How have you missed it? Does that mean Gwen's never seen it?
I'm sure Gwen has not seen it. She has seen Jerry Maguire, though.
Welcome to Trauma Bonded. I'm Elly Westberg here with Therese Garcia.
Hello.
And today we're discussing episode 333 of the podcast. This is actually happening. What if you saw the black mass of death? A brief synopsis. Charlie was born to a couple of teens in the UK. She grew up close to her mother, separate from her father. Her parents divorced and her mom brought a stepman into her life who seemed to despise her. He was mentally, emotionally, and physically abusive to her. Charlie excelled at running, but was then brutalized and assaulted by her running coach. She made a way for herself after university and made it all the way to sports broadcaster at the BBC. And in 2016, she does a bike ride for charity, cycling all the way from the UK down to Christ the Redeemer and Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And although she was slated to present the fucking 2016 Olympic Games, she comes down with such an illness that it nearly kills her. She goes into a coma, and it's a true miracle she lives. This new chance at life begins, her road to recovery, and getting through and addressing her childhood trauma. And full disclosure, I am the showrunner for This Is Actually Happening, and T knows nothing about anything. She comes in fresh, and this show, Trauma/Bonded, is for the listeners, a space where we can talk about each episode, digest it, and reflect on it with empathy and also a bit of levity. That's Trauma Bonded. T, what stuck out to you is the heart of Charlie's story.
I went with one word on this one, and that word is shadow.
Go on.
She does mention this word a couple times. I thought it was a really good metaphor for kind of her journey of kind of her abuse and the healing and transformation. You know, she talks about her mom being a shadow of herself.
Yay.
Right? Once she becomes so controlled and abused by her stepdad. And then Charlie herself tries to make herself small and unnoticeable. Shadow can also symbolize kind of that unacknowledged pain that she lives through. She kind of ignores it, but it is always there. And then in my mind's eye, I was thinking that this shadow kind of turned into this black mass.
Yeah.
So big that it's almost like she had to confront it, and fight for her life.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, we haven't got there yet. I assume we will have a spirited discussion what that black mass might have been. But that's like kind of a good idea of what it could have been.
Yeah. I thought there was something there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think the shadow is just something about like her journey of acceptance and healing, and that she needs to acknowledge it, the darkness, in order to move forward.
Mm-hmm. And when you shine light in dark spaces, they create shadows.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah, thank you.
I went with multiple words on this one. I think the heart of her story is something around this idea of facing down death renews your perspective. And I think it's important that we keep death near us all the time so we don't forget about him. I think it keeps us safer, one. But two, I think it keeps us kinder and maybe more graceful to others. Like, why would you yell at someone about something so trite when we're all headed for the same place, kind of thing?
Yeah.
And I was thinking it has a sort of double-edged sword for ourselves in that, one, we should extend the same kindness and grace for ourselves that we do others. But two, we have this fear of not doing it all, or some idea of living life to the fullest. And so in that way, we can be really mean to ourselves, like when we perceive ourselves as wasting time, especially on others. And I'm going to say it, especially on toxic men. Or toxic relationships, if you will. But there's a lot of toxic men in this episode, so there you go. I look back at relationships I never should have ever leaned into so hard. And two things happen. One, I extend grace to my younger idiot self. But two, I chastise her and say, learn and do better. Don't ever go back. And that's love for myself. So really, it should be multi-pronged for people I love too. I don't just give grace and kindness and acceptance, but on some level, if I really, really truly love someone, I'll speak hard truth to them. And if I see that they maybe are wasting their time on the wrong people, it is love in me that would step forward and chastise them and use that same chastising fire to say, learn and do better. Because I love you and I want you to learn to do better. It's that looming death. This is it. We've heard it since you're born. It's a constant thing that older people say to you. This is the only life you have. And it doesn't really ring true, I think, until one, you either come close to losing it, or two, you start to get older and see how fast it goes. And you're constantly being bombarded with these messages of, what are you doing? This is it. What are you doing with it? This is it. What are you doing with it? Why are you with him? Why are you letting him treat you like that? This is it. Why are you hoping you can change him? Why are you being around him when he hurts you? When death is always on your mind, it keeps your perspective healthy. And I'm not saying we should walk around just thinking about, death is coming.
Dark.
It could be like a really depressive way to live, but it is. None of us are escaping.
Yeah.
I hate the years that I wasted on people that were never going to give me what I wanted, And I don't have full regret. Yeah, I think I learned things from all of those relationships. But when I'm with people that really lift me up and I feel close to, and there's an electricity and you walk away from it feeling energized and renewed, why wouldn't you be seeking that sort of feeling all the time? Why would you go, okay, well, bye, people that love me and care about me and see the best of me. I'm going to go hang out with this person who barely gives me shit to rub together to deal with because of some kind of weird hatred for myself. I as much as I get love and acceptance from others, I deserve some sort of berating or beatdown or something. I don't think people actually think like that, but I would challenge anyone that's listening to this right now. If you have someone in your life that you feel obligated to, or when you're around them, they just make you feel like shit. Just pounded shit the whole time. There's no joy, at least not at your expense. There's no growth. There's no compassion. There's no camaraderie. There's no feeling lifted up. If you have a person like that in your life, cut them out. Death is coming.
Mm.
And on that note, let's talk about fucking stepdads.
Oh, God.
Can you think of a worse villain in all of media than the stepdad? Especially it's usually in stories when like they finally got rid of the dad and it's just the mom and the kid hanging out.
They're so happy, bonding.
We're so happy. They're poor, but they're happy because they have agency and they look out for each other and there's no violence. There's just joy and like there's this like sense that we're going to fight this world together. Like we're going to do it. And then here comes Mr. fucking stepdad. And it's really hard for me not to be mad at the women that bring these men into their kids' lives. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
do we not all feel judgment?
a little, but there's that need. You want that partnership. You had that, and now you have a kid. It's nice to have somebody to live your life with, of course, right?
Yes. And
then you get stuck.
But if you saw, no matter how much you need that, doesn't your protection of your kids trump that at some point?
You would think so.
That's what I don't get.
I don't ever get that.
I want to have grace to the storyteller's mom because obviously she's had a hard road to hoe and she's doing the best she can. And I'm sure now that she's out of it, she can look back and be really mean to herself about it. And I don't want to pile on her at all. But I watch so many of these true crime stories and there's 60-70% of them. They got divorced. We were a happy family. It was hard, but we were happy. And then here comes in Mr. Awful or Mrs. Awful. But usually it's Mr. Right.
Not to be like that.
Not to be like that. Just quit adding a party that doesn't enrich your life.
Just because you're lonely.
Because you're lonely or you don't think that you can make ends meet. Like, you are resilient. You will figure it out. It might be hard, but you will do it. And I guarantee you the experience of being poor but having joy is going to be so much more valuable to your child ending up an adult than to have more consistency of things and then a malevolent force in the household that makes everyone feel like shit all the time.
I know. I hate that too. Like, call me dad now. It's just like...
And then it's one thing to accept it, but then the first time you see this guy being shitty to your kid, or the first time they lay a hand on their kid,
oh my God, that's it.
Isn't that it?
Isn't that it?
I don't want to be judgy.
But, in her defense, this guy was controlling and manipulative, I'm sure, and, probably went back and forth, being really kind, apologetic. Who knows,
I know.
You feel tricked.
I know. Abusers are really good at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it takes so long for women to escape abusive relationships. And men. It's really hard. They hone in on your insecurities, and there's a lot of manipulation, and it's really hard to extricate yourself. You might see it clearly and not have a way out. It's scary. Fucking stepdads, man. She talks about how her brother saved her in a sense. What do you think she means?
Well, somebody that she could unconditionally love, who can unconditionally love her.
Yeah.
Right? And that wasn't kind of poisoned by like this toxic relationship that's going on with both, her mommy and her dad at that point, right? Her stepdad.
It sounds like Charlie really took it upon herself to sort of be a buffer. Like she found, like she's so resilient and so stoic. She just started to develop that thick skin, unfortunately, really early. And so the brothers probably gave her purpose. They were people she could protect and stand in the way for and of. So at 8 years old, her dad's rejected her stepdad's rejected her. Her stepdad verbally assaults her and abuses her and also degrades the mom. So she's getting on both ends. She's seeing like terrible behavior being modeled for her, and she's being abused herself. Like, what the hell? And she talks about how emotional abuse changes your sense of self when you're a kid. It damages your psyche. Yeah. Like, this is your foundation. Like, that's so scary of how much kids are like a blank slate, and you're just slowly filling in this foundation for them every day, all day.
And they'll believe what you say.
Yeah. And if you tell them they're a piece of shit and they're ugly and they're not going to amount to anything, they're going to believe that about themselves. And if you're not saying it directly, but you're saying it about yourself in front of them all the time, they're going to assume you think they mean it about you too. They're going to assume that you mean it about them too.
Yeah. That's why I always try to just watch what I'm saying all the time and always lifting them up, obviously being realistic, but you could really damage people.
Yeah.
Kids particularly. I mean, obviously the mom as well.
Well, it sounds like she had a shit go of it herself,
Yeah.
So Charlie's solution to this is to make herself small so he wouldn't notice her. At 11, she started running, and she loved it, like, a lot. Yeah, which is wild, because who says that about running, No.
Sounds like torture, but that's fine.
She loved it. She was in this elite girls club, and these girls became her friends and family, and she's able to confide in the coach about her home life, and I'm about to get really mad. Yeah. Those, to me, are the worst kind of predators, that they're just going, oh, tell me everything. Tell me.
Yeah.
And then just take it all in and then use it to manipulate you.
Become someone trusted.
Yeah. The worst
Right.
kind of abusers. Oh, you're abused elsewhere? I guess I can do it to you too, and you're not going to say anything. And she loved this group of girls, and as she progressed in the club, like, new girls would come in and look up to her, and that meant a lot to her. And she wanted this extra training, and the coach offered her this extra training, and this excites her because it feels like, oh my gosh, I'm good at something. I'm going to turn our whole family's life around. She sees this big, bright future ahead of her. She's going to be able to rescue her mom, et cetera, et cetera. So much hope. Everything that came from what doing sports as a kid is supposed to come. That's what's supposed to happen to you. This feeling of worth and accomplishing something that's hard and all the things that you learn and get from that. And this dick comes in and just destroys her and ruins the whole fucking thing. I hate him.
I hate him.
And I hate it knowing that a lot of these girls were dealing with the same thing, and they weren't talking to each other about it. And this is that unintended shame that she talks about.
Yeah.
And every time I hear it, I just want to say, just talk to each other. Talk. Say it out loud. Say what he did to you. Say it.
And their team, like, they talk to each other a lot.
And they're girlfriends, so they're like, they share everything.
Yeah, they're like really good. Yeah. But that was the one thing. Because maybe it's only happening to them, right?
And we talk ourselves out of things real quickly. Well, maybe it wasn't sexual. Maybe it was just a massage, or maybe, like, we challenge our own instincts about it. Like, our bodies tell us when things are not right. Like, it knows when someone's too close to you or pushing on you wrong or weird, or we have those instincts built into us, but we challenge them because we don't want to stand out. And it's going to, if I say something and no one else is going through this, then everyone's going to turn on me and say it was my fault that it happened. And yeah, it's fucked. And I know that you teach this to your kid. To me, this is like one of the most valuable things ever. Like, no matter what happens to you, talk about it. Tell somebody. Find someone that you trust and tell somebody.
It's one of the things I'm so scared of.
I know.
You swear, yeah, tell someone you trust.
And it feels really pervasive, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's not like I can be like, hey, so,
Oh, how was track today? Did anything?
Weird.
Yeah, because you don't want to go that route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're like, what are you saying? We talk about boundaries. We talk about, private parts, things like that. But man.
But when it's sly and it's over time and it just is gradual, it's not like.
This seems like it was like years.
It's not like she walked in his office and he grabbed her.
Yeah.
So I think that's something else that kids need to understand, like what grooming really is. But how, because you also want them to be able to trust adults in their life.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one. Good luck with all that.
Even with our, the last storyteller, right? The mentor was probably very kind, saying how talented he was, whatever kind of things, and really bringing him up.
Yeah. And
Same here. You're like, I can trust this person. This person likes me for me.
the way that whole construct, this whole construct that you have in your mind of what a person is, falls away the first time they cross the line is devastating, because you're not just dealing with that unwanted sexual attention. You've now lost trust in a really trusted adult mentor in your life. And you don't have the faculty or the skills or the brain to be able to see past it and to see, we're going to move on from this, and it's going to be just, it's not going to take me down. I mean, you remember what it's like to be a teenager. Like, everything is devastating.
How I know.
And it doesn't seem like you're ever going to escape it. And I've talked about this before. I was certain I had AIDS. I was certain I was pregnant. Never touched a penis, mind you. Just just constantly cataloging all of the, you hear about something in the world and you're like, oh God, that could happen to me. And, you're constantly cataloging how bad things are going to happen to you. So for them to actually happen and then not have any kind of resource or outlet to find healing from it, now it's just become part of your fabric. And then he causes friction in the group.
Yeah, what's that?
He's playing favorites and causing division. And then it became super competitive. What a fucking asshole. And she says this herself, her characterization of her coach: another fucking man making her feel scared. Enraged. I'm enraged.
Yeah, and she's probably questioning everything. Am I even a good runner? Am I as talented? Or am I whatever good thing he said about her? Okay, no, I'm still not good enough. This is totally true, what the stepdad's been saying. The coach has just been using me and saying those things.
Yep. So what does that do? She starts skipping, and eventually she just stops going at 17 years old. And now she's lost her coping mechanism and all of her self-esteem that she's built. This one not even careless, evil, selfish, maniacal devil man who's entrusted. He's especially evil because he's been entrusted to take care of youth, destroys all of that in her. He steals all of that. Scum. Just absolute scum. Anywho, did you want to pile on about the scum?
I mean, I'm with you 100%.
Do you want to call them any names before we move on?
Got all the names.
All the names. So all of that sucks. And, oh, by the way, Charlie, we're all moving to another town and you can't come.
What's that?
So you're going to spend your senior year here with your grandparents. What the fuck? And again, I got to come after the mom a little bit. How are you just okay with that?
How'd she let that happen? You can't wait a year? What's going on? It's her senior year in high school.
Well, and it sounds like it was expressly said to her, you're not coming. And I don't know. I just feel like it could have been introduced to her in a way that wasn't so deliberately exclusive and rejectionary.
Right? Yeah. Like, you're already rejecting her. Do you also have to just be like, use your manipulative powers to make it seem like it's not that great or something?
Yeah.
Like, come.
Yeah.
Look at this house. It's like, ooh, can I make it her idea?
Yeah. Just deliberate rejection. It's cruel.
Yeah.
But this bitch, I mean, she's like an unstoppable force.
I know.
She goes to uni. She starts a new persona for herself. And in this, she burns a candle at both ends. And she's working hard. She's playing hard. She's drinking a lot. She's probably having a good fucking time. And she finds out her coach was arrested. And she's deeply worried that people are going to find out about her. And she really wanted to tell.
Yeah.
But she couldn't. So she just kept ignoring it and kept pushing it down.
How are people just assuming it's not happened to her? People just assume it?
Yeah.
Thank God it didn't happen to you. It's like, well, now I can't tell you if it did, feels like.
We can start with, is there something you want to tell me?
Yeah. Okay.
How does it feel knowing that happened to him? Did you ever have any encounters with him that you want to talk about? It's okay. It's a safe space.
Yeah.
Like, give her a chance.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
She threw herself into physical exercise. I love that for her, and I wish that I could do that.
I throw myself into McDonald's. That's what I throw myself into. It's like, damn, Can I throw myself into something
Big bag of
physically and
grease.
mentally will help me? You know,
What we have done, thrown ourselves into physical exercise. Maybe that's just that time of our lives is over. Just have to accept it.
the choices we make now, right, impact us
Yeah.
decades to come in many ways, but I'm just talking about physically.
Yeah. So Charlie gets her degree and moves to London with nothing. And she talks about how her relationships are transactional and because she has to protect herself. And then she gets into modeling. Comes out of nowhere. She's networking and she's independent. And she says something that that really like rang true to me. She says, independent means safety. What does that mean to you?
I'm wondering if it's like she doesn't have to depend on anyone. She doesn't have to have deep relationships with anyone. She can, have these transactional relationships and not have to trust anyone who's going to betray her. And she just keeps busy. She's doing her thing. She's making it happen, On the outside, it looks great. She's succeeding,
Yeah. When you don't have to rely on someone else, you're fully formed, you take care of your own shit, you pay your own rent. And if someone comes in your life and you figure out that they're abusive or toxic, you can exile them without worrying about how it's going to impact your life.
Yeah.
That's where that independence comes. Independence means I don't have to be around someone I don't want to be around because I'm going to take care of myself no matter what. And when you see a woman model behavior for you where she felt like she had to bring in this man, aka her stepdad, and he starts to make himself not only an important figure in the household, but one required for survival, like that dependence keeps people close. It keeps people chained in chains. Independence is the most freeing thing in the world. It means you can cut people out and not worry about what they've been giving you. That's why I think it's so scary, like trophy wives. Like they know that their shelf life isn't very long. So you might pick, you're 22, you're hot as fuck, you pick up, I don't know, 40-year-old billionaire type, and you live a good life. And you might bear his children. And you're with him until you're 40. And now he's 60. But you're 40 now. And you're pretty. You're not like as pretty. And now you've got these kids. And you have no skills. And guess what? He is going to turn you loose. And then what? Are you going to rely on alimony? Or are you going to have a fight a court battle about child custody so you can get like a monthly allowance for your kid? All the things. The best thing you could have done for yourself early is to learn to be independent. So when that relationship does go south, your whole being isn't predicated on it being there. I worry about these women. I see these women on Real Housewives shows. It's just a matter of time. And it happens to almost all of them at some point. And it's like, if you haven't been sucking that money away into investments or business opportunities or whatever, it's going to be a hard road to hoe when he goes and finds his new 22-year-old.
Get some skills or something.
Like, no one's growing old with Leo,
Oh, yeah.
Leo DiCaprio is going to be 80 fucking years old with a 25-year-old on his arm. No one growing old next to Leo DiCaprio. Ain't happening.
It's true. Don't try to depend on that guy.
I feel like it's a thing that women say. I'm so excited for us to grow old together. It's not a thing that you hear men say. And then it's like, as soon as men come into it,
you're like, wait, you're going to grow old?
Wait.
What? You're hot though.
You're not going to,
not going to be hot anymore?
Keep making money and I'll just get a new version at some point.
I feel like you've maybe been watching Real Housewives maybe too much.
Too much. Maybe.
There's like a lens. There's a Real Housewife lens to all
I have
your
a vacancy
thoughts.
in my eyes. So she's done very well. She becomes a sports journalist at the BBC. It sounds like at a pretty young age. And she definitely has a chip on her shoulder. She is proving herself. all of this shit that's followed her in her childhood that told her she wasn't good enough. Guess what? She's showing you that she is. She's proving it. And she gets into crazy things like triathlons and marathons.
Crazy things. Ironmans and
Crazy things. And ironically, she's doing all this work for charities against domestic violence. And it's like this way for her to fix that part of her history. And I think to advocate for her mom, who is still very much in it. It's kind of this beautiful end way around this thing that you hate in your life that you feel like you're powerless against. And it's like, if I can't get my mom to leave him, at least I can try to raise money for charities to help people that are ready to leave. And hopefully she will be one of those people at some point.
I mean, that's amazing what she's doing.
It really is. It's beautiful. I hope her mom sees that as well.
Yeah.
And she's considered this fundraising hero. And the first time she talks about her own abuse is on public radio. And wow, guess what? She's getting all these messages from men and women saying it happened to them. So it sounds like it was this positive experience for her to actually say it out loud. So she's just working. She's offered the Rio Games in 2016, but on her way there, no big deal. She's going to take a bike there first.
One way to commute over.
I didn't know you could do that. Turns out you can somehow.
I take a plane, but some people,
They must have taken the bike on a plane at some point, I assume. Okay.
At some point. But I was just going to do
There's
only
not like a
the
big
plane.
bridge
You know
I know
what I mean?
about or anything.
I don't know. You should look at a map. Oh, shit. There's like an ocean or
Shit.
something.
Yeah, you just get to, I don't know, the boot of Italy, and you're like, well, I guess we got to get on a plane.
Am I swimming this? I did the Ironman.
Seems far. Yeah, and not only are we going to cycle to Rio, y'all, we're going to do it in 4 weeks.
Well, she's got a sketch. She's got to get there.
She's got a tight sketch. This woman, incredible. So in August, they're cycling 100 miles a day. In August 2016, they arrive in Rio and they end at the Christ Redeemer statue. And she's done this amazing thing. And she feels fucking terrible.
It makes sense. You know, I was like, okay, yeah, this is why.
What don't you have? She goes to the opening ceremony. By anyone's estimation, she is at the top of her game. She's on the top of the world, but she is bleeding from her butt and her ears.
The ears and nose, I was like, okay. The butt, I was like, that kind of makes sense because you've been on a bike a lot. So I'm still thinking this is a bike thing.
Oh, I see.
You know, we just do a half marathon thing, and I'm like throwing up practically. I get it.
You just thought her butt had been on that seat too much. Like it was a
Yeah.
cluster or something.
Chafing or I don't. But no, then the ears and nose.
Oh,
I was
that's
like,
not
that
good.
can't be
Yeah.
good. I'm no doctor.
And she's got to be on camera the next
With
day.
her ears bleeding, it's like, oh, that's a bad look.
It's not great. Like, can you imagine having to call off presenting at the Olympics? Period. One.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be sick. It's not like you're just want to lay in bed and watch like below deck marathons.
I'm going to be lazy today.
Yeah. You are sick.
It's a lazy day. Yeah.
And, and someone in that kind of position, you're not just answering Joan at the office. Like, you're messing up a lot of people's, like a lot of people are having to scramble to cover for you.
Yes.
And she figured it must be the bike ride. Yeah. Just rode that seat a little too long. She goes to urgent care. She's supposed to be hosting the fucking Olympics, but she goes to urgent care. And she's rushed to the hospital, and she's presented a note that says dying, organ failure.
It's like, I think you misspelled that. I think you mean thriving.
Oh, this is serious.
Surviving? No, dying.
So I thought it was only in America where these two sentences go together. You're dying. We need your insurance information. But apparently it happens in Rio as well.
Yeah.
Now, I did look this up.
Research alert.
They do have free, thank you. They do have free healthcare in Brazil for citizens and travelers, and they have done since 1988. So maybe this was a special hospital or something, because it's like, you're dying, and where's your insurance? And it sounds like they were sort of like withholding treatment from her a little bit. I mean, they had to source a dialysis machine, but she is deteriorating quick. And she's told you can't go into intensive care until your insurance kicks in. I don't understand this. No one explain it to me.
I don't even know.
Yeah, she's a fucking BBC presenter. Like, someone's gonna pay your bill, bro. Like,
Can't they do the insurance after?
I just don't get it. They act like it's built into the Hippocratic Oath or something. Like, you will do no harm.
You're
You will
right.
blah blah blah. You will make sure they have insurance before you operate. Like,
Meredith Grey would do it. All right.
is that bitch still kicking? Did she get kicked off on the show? Did
No.
she get killed on the
I
show?
don't think so. It's
She's
been going
it's
on
still
for
going?
80 years.
No.
I think so. I'm still catching up.
Hasn't everyone died or been killed off on that show by now? Is she like the only original
Who else?
cast member? God, I love those first
No, I think Christina's still
few
in.
seasons. Oof. So good.
Yeah, those are good. Ugh,
Why did they have a dialysis machine? She's got shallow breathing.
I don't know.
Her doctors tell her mom she's got 24 hours to live. And just 36 hours prior, she was holding a bike above her head at a big famous statue in Brazil.
Probably cheering and
She's shivering. She's
Yeah.
puking. When is my mom coming? And she's got this deep concern that she's going to hurt her mom. And I love how her mom is so calm and cool and collected and makes a joke. Well, this is one way to get me to Brazil. But
ew.
I also I didn't understand why the mom had to sign for the induced coma. Is that standard practice? Because, I mean, Charlie's 34 at this point. Is it like someone in the
I
family?
don't know. Is it
Like if you don't,
someone who can make medical decisions for you if you're not able?
I guess. It's just, it seems crazy to me that they're waiting on this woman to arrive instead of doing the thing. Isn't it?
Like she has to get there, assess the situation, be like, it's okay to do it.
Yeah. I don't get hospitals or doctors or healthcare or anything.
Yeah.
Her lungs are stopping. They put her in a coma. She can hear her mom and brother. So she talks about how her brain was so alive, but her body couldn't move. And I can't think of anything more frustrating.
That's crazy. You're just trapped.
And luckily her brother was fighting for her. She was fighting for her life. And then she describes this whole like battle with the black mass of death. She talks about these little boys who were old wanting to guide her through the door. What image is in your mind when you hear someone say little boys who are old? What does that mean?
I don't know. It was an interesting.
Like a Benjamin Button kind of thing?
It feels like to her it makes sense in the state she was in, right?
Yeah.
And then when she said it, it felt like, yes, okay.
Like wrinkly little boys. I don't know. She sees this black mass and it's speaking to her saying, come on, it's time to go. And she wants to lean into it to a degree. There's this part of her that says, I have had enough, not just of this shitty malaria or whatever it is, but of this life.
Yeah.
Maybe it is time for me to go. And she sees these vignettes play in her mind of what her stepdad has done to her, what her coach has done to her. But then she turns her thinking and she says basically the opposite side of that same coin. I can't have gone through all of this and then this is the end. This is it. I've come this far for a reason. I got to keep going. And I can't, there's this responsibility. I can't leave my mom and brothers. So it was this love and the pain that was it was renewing her life and her energy.
There's so much dichotomy going on, like the old little boys and then the black mass was so bright.
Well, it's like she battled it and then it turned bright or something.
Yeah. And then love and pain.
And do you think, you mentioned shadow at the beginning of this episode, do you think that's what the black mass was? These shadows of these terrible things that had happened to her, asking her to give up?
Yeah.
It's unique because I feel like it's not a usual kind of near death thing that we hear about. Usually it is all bright light, whatever. But she like had to face down this thing in herself first. Or is like this black mass was all of this pain and hurt inside of her. And it basically appeared to her and asked her to beg for her stupid life. Are you going to give in to me? Or are you going to take me, flip me around, put some LED lights in my ass, and wake up and try this again and do something different.
Yeah. I mean, I wondered if it was like, let me take over this, all this darkness. He should just go, right? So she had to battle it and acknowledge it. Yeah.
She says she will not go gentle into that good night. She doesn't say that exactly. I'm putting it in her mouth. I will not go gentle into that good night. She decides to fight, and she comes to after 2 weeks. And she looks at the TV and she says,
Did I miss the Olympics?
so she finds out that she had malaria and 3 other tropical diseases, and the treatment works, and it's a miracle. She's in the hospital in Rio for 2 more months, and then she gets repatriated back to the UK. She's got a lot of physical recovery ahead of her, and she has this thing where it's, oh my God, I'm alive. Euphoria, 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 ... Then what?
Crash.
High highs to low lows. What's my purpose? Why did this happen? Why did I make it? Why did I live? What do I do now? What became of my career? And then it gets into survival again. I was at the top of my career, and now I'm actually struggling for money. Like, what do you do with that? And all along, she keeps reliving this conversation she's had with death, and she keeps reliving those vignettes in her mind about the abuse that she had endured.
She can't escape it.
She can't escape it. She can't sleep. And she's being told you're lucky to be alive. It's all very distressing.
Yeah.
And then in her recovery, she can't help but measure herself to her prior version of herself.
That's dangerous.
It's very dangerous. Comparison is the thief of joy, even when it's yourself.
A comparison to yourself. Yeah, man.
So she is diagnosed with PTSD, and she goes to see a clinical psychologist, and they don't want to talk about her black mass of death. What do they want to talk about, T?
Let's move forward. Why are we... I can talk about a couple weeks ago, but let's not
We
go
don't need
decades.
to do all of that.
That's in the past.
The past is the past. It's the past. Her coping mechanisms are gone, and she sees it clearly that she's never dealt with anything ever. And now, with her sitting with it, with a professional, and coupled with her PTSD, it's more painful than ever. The pain is more alive than ever. And she says you cannot process emotional pain intellectually. What do you think? Do you think she means like you have to be able to feel it? Like you have to feel it and acknowledge it and also battle it emotionally?
I mean, before she got sick, right? All those things she was doing, her jobs, her career, right? And then also like everything, like the exercising, everything she was doing. And then the charity work. It's like she felt like, okay, like I'm facing my past by doing this because I'm helping with this. When she was describing it, I was like, this is, if this ends right now, this podcast could end right now because this is good. She did it, There's like, that's a very, maybe it's more like an intellectual or surface way of addressing all of the past abuse or, but it didn't get her to actually heal, right?
Because I think there's something about having to say it out loud.
I mean, she said it out loud. She did. She talked about it on public radio. It's like, oh, good, getting it out there.
But it's one thing to just say it. It's another thing to like talk about it and to answer questions about it and work through it and
get in there
and eliminate the shame around it.
Yeah. And
she talks about misplaced shame, and I think we talk a lot about misplaced shame. How do you avoid misplaced shame?
Just remember where you left it. Put an air tag on her. No. I misplaced my shame again. You always do. Is it on the shelf? Did you leave it in your pants? What were you wearing yesterday?
Retrace your steps. Walk down your shame spiral. I'm sure it's there. It's where it always is.
It's there.
Just
It's
keep going
in
around in
there.
circles. You'll find it. She's so incredibly resilient, this woman. I love this image of her adult self sort of protecting her younger self.
Yeah.
And acknowledging how hard she's been on her all these years.
No.
She acknowledges that all of this shit is her, all of it. And she has to accept all of herself. If you can tell yourself you're not good enough and believe it, why can't you tell yourself you are good enough and believe it?
Right?
Seriously, I'm asking why.
You should just try it. I know your inner monologue.
What do you mean?
I stopped doing that inner monologue.
Yeah?
Remember when we used to run a lot? And the way I would push
Yeah.
myself is like, stop being lazy.
Are you nice to yourself now in your head?
I try. Yeah,
Good.
right? But then maybe I shouldn't be so nice to myself because
I'm
I really
saying,
stopped
this is the
running.
balance you have to find.
It's weird. It's weird seeing that pattern.
So she says the biggest change that comes out of all this is boundaries.
Yeah.
And she's not going to accept abuse anymore. And that is powerful. And if we all ever learn one lesson in our life, ever, that should be it. I won't accept abuse anymore. And the stepdad of hers, talk about the final black mass. You know, Charlie felt like she had to start pushing back her mom. And her mom was able to leave her stepdad 2 years after the Rio incident. And her mom says she wouldn't have done it if Charlie hadn't almost died. And it's like really beautiful. Like Charlie gave her mom this incredible gift of going through something so awful, but it was able to finally be that perspective check, that lesson, that trauma, that perspective, that death is near. She had to see that up close and personal before she could actually do this really, really hard, brave thing to leave the stepdad. And guess what? She left, and they're healing together, and they hang out, and they probably like dance and twirl and shit like it was always supposed to be.
Yeah.
She has this bright, amazing energy, and that makes me want to cry so much because you hate it when people have been dimmed by their abuser and they're in it and they don't know how to get out of it, and you don't know how to rescue them out of it, but you see the life is out of them, and then to see the life infused back in them when they just have themselves and they accept themselves and they don't have this boot on their neck anymore. It's the most incredible, amazing thing to see happen. Like, talk about like pure joy.
You're free to be.
Yeah. Charlie thinks she's meant to be here, that she can help others, to acknowledge pain and stop isolation. She says she doesn't believe in what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. She thinks that's dangerous because we have to acknowledge the pain and all of it. But her post-traumatic takeaways, she talks about how there's this expectation that we're supposed to have this sort of happy ending post-trauma. And she talks about how she did lose a teammate to suicide who didn't have the same happy ending. What do you think about what she said? I don't believe in what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Like, we shouldn't have to go through these terrible fucking awful things.
Yeah.
Can we be our amazing, authentic, empathetic, sympathetic selves without having to be traumatized over and over again?
Yeah.
That's the hope.
That's the hope. But also, what doesn't kill you makes you weaker.
Yeah.
As well.
It could be the thing that actually kills you eventually. This is ending on the same message as last week. It's all about self-acceptance. I'm sensing a pattern.
Mm-hmm. There's some patterns.
Self-acceptance is such a big deal.
Yeah.
It seems to be the most important thing.
It's pretty important. I'm just thinking of those people who are like so self-acceptant. So
That's the thing. Like
let's not.
little shame. Little shame. Little shame.
I do well with a little
It's
bit of
tough
shame that I
one.
got.
Or
It's a balance.
yeah, or like people that like, I accept myself. I totally accept myself. Oh yeah, I fucked you over. That's just what I do. Like those people that like acknowledge that they're shitty and think that allows them to be shitty because they acknowledge that they're shitty. Like that's also not good. So there has to be some sort of balance in there somewhere. But
yeah, I think it's good to feel empowered, but not too much.
rein it in a little bit.
Rein it. If now it's affecting other people.
It's too many messages to live by. I can't.
I don't know, whatever's happening. How do we keep, because the self-acceptance is good generally, I think, but.
See, this is why people join cults and like just pursue money. These are like easy, like obvious goals that are attainable. You just like do that. You don't have to work on yourself.
Yeah, I get it.
Well, this story was incredible. I love listening to her go to her or go to Actually Happening Instagram. There is this amazing photo. It's the last day of the ride to Rio on her bike with the ocean behind her. And, you know, her caption to it was, "This is the last day of the ride. I was so happy. I had no idea that I was facing down death."
Is she so cool?
She's pretty cool.
I feel like she's so cool.
Thank you for listening. This has been an episode of Trauma Bonded. You can find our show where podcasts are kept. Please rate and review us. Thanks to Charlie for sharing their story and giving us the opportunity to talk about it. And thanks to the This Is Actually Happening team, including Whit, Missildine, and Andrew Wade, and the maker of our music and website, Nathaniel Trimboli. And thanks to Cathy Sites, maybe. Hey, Kath. For editing this episode, and Katie Cable for building those blasted Instagram posts. You guys on YouTube, you can email us, you can go to Instagram. We have a website, apparently. We are here to listen. Come listen with us. We are trauma bonded to the story, to the storyteller, to the listeners, and to each other. Thanks for spending time with us today. Love you, T.
Love you, Elly. Good job. Hey, thank you.
Hey, thank you. Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Trauma bond.